This is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm doing a take two of one of my videos I did back in January, which is for the BIQU Hermit Crab tool changer. Back in January, I was new to doing videos, which I guess I still am, and the audio quality was awful on that video, and a lot of people have complained. And I found the old video and I've tried to improve it. I also have some thoughts I want to share and some updates on using the tool changer for over 6 months. One of the changes I would recommend that I did in the video that I wouldn't do again is right now I only put ferrules on the hot end wires, and that's the hot end wires going from the hot end into the Hermit Crab and then going from the motherboard into the Hermit Crab. I only put ferrules on the wires for the hot end. The other thing you want to make sure you do is you have to have some type of strain relief. If you don't do strain relief, particularly the wires for the fans tend to come out. So I went ahead and designed a model for strain relief that I'm using, and I haven't posted that. I'm not sure it's very good, but if anybody needs something, let me know and I'll go ahead and share what I have. So I'd go ahead and I would take the ferrules off all the wires except the hot end. So the only wires I would leave ferrules on again are those going to the heating cartridge on the hot end. Everything else I just put them straight in. Problems I've noticed over time with this, particularly with the strain relief, I've already mentioned that. I've also noticed I periodically check the wiring to my park cooling fan, that those have periodically come loose. So again, just check those. Make sure you're doing some type of strain relief. Have good luck with this. So far, I really like this. Whenever I have a problem with my hot end, I can take it off my printer, move it over to my workbench, and just figure things out. So I really like it. I wouldn't hesitate to buy it again if I was going to put it on another printer. Now, something else to make note of is there are very few duct solutions that I found that I think are really good for your hot end. One of the ones that I want to point out is the Hero Me 6, and this is over on Thingiverse, and this is I think it's medium in 3D. And if you scroll down here, somewhere here, down towards the bottom, I think, right in here, you'll see that he actually has mounts for the Big Tree Tech Hermit Crab. So that's something to make note of. I'm really looking at the Hero Me because I'm probably going to print this duct system out for at least 2 of my printers and switch over to it, because I'm really trying to standardize what I have on each printer. Again, I appreciate everybody who's watched my videos and commented, and the goal of this video is to fix the sound issues I had on the original, and then also give you some updates on my thoughts and how I did the wiring. Again, appreciate your time. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. I am always looking for more feedback and ideas, things I can do. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the following video, and I hope it helps you if you decide to install the BIQU Hermit Crab.
Hi, this is Mike, and today I'm going to show you how I install the BIQU Hermit Crab tool changer on my Ender 5 Plus. Tool changer, I was able to get it on sale on Amazon on Black Friday, and along with the tool changer, I also got the BIQU H2 extruder. And I figured installing that extruder would be, I'm pretty sure they're compatible. Now, one issue before I get started I want to point out, and I'll show this in the directions, is according to Amazon, the Hermit Crab is definitely compatible with these printers, and these are printers with and without linear rails, and but the Ender 5 Plus is not listed, and additionally I also have linear rails installed on my Ender 5 Plus, and so that'll mean we'll have to make some changes. We'll have to make some adjustments. Okay, so I have the box for the Hermit Crab, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'll put this aside. Comes with an instruction manual. We'll go over that in a second. One of the tool plates came with a total of 3, so this is the interchangeable tool plate, and this is the back piece that gets mounted on the printer. So we'll set those aside. And then it also comes with, over here, a variety of wires, as well as 2 different plates for hooking into the timing belt, and one more set of wires here. And there's also a little bag of tools that includes lots of screws. Those are all, and I'll use some of these, and I actually have to change out some of the screws. But let's go ahead and start looking at this. First thing I want to point out is when I open the instructions, this might be a little hard to see. We have 2 sets of instructions. One set of instructions for the palm wheels, and then over here we have a second set of instructions for installing with linear rails. And let's go over to the browser. Scroll down here. You'll notice the install they're doing, the linear rails are mounted facing out. They're not mounted on the top, so they're mounted on the side of the rail. Now if I switch over and we take a look at my printer, you'll notice one of my first issues is I actually have the linear rail mounted along the top. And that's not one of the configurations. That's not one of the configurations that's shown here in the instructions. So what I've done is I started looking at the set of instructions for doing the palm wheels. I've gone ahead and put together and printed out some parts that I can use to go ahead and adapt this so I can mount the tool changer based on my configuration. So the printed parts I've done, put the directions aside, is I've done a mounting plate which will mount along the top of my linear rail, and then using one of the plates that came with the Hermit Crab, I'll go ahead and install that plate, and then these 2 hooks here, I can use those to put in my timing belt. There's another bit of printed pieces. I've done some belt stops so I can put those on my timing belt and to hold the timing belt in place. And I've also cut a new piece of timing belt, which is maybe a little over a meter, meter and a half. And I can, once I install this, I'll clip it down so just the bare minimum's there. Again, using that plate here. So this plate will be mounted on the top of the printer, and then the timing belts will, turn from the correct orientation. So the timing belts will be right here, and then the back mounting plate will mount right here. So there we go. Now, other printed parts I did ahead of time was Teaching Tech does a video on the exchange system. Supposedly the Hermit Crab is compatible with the exchange. I've already discovered it's not quite the same. Teaching Tech, Michael at Teaching Tech has created a couple parts to permanently mount the BLTouch, so he doesn't have a BLTouch for every different tool plate. And in my case, I think I'd like to have it where the BLTouch is permanently mounted. Again, that'll save me some money, so that way I don't have to buy multiple BLTouches depending on which plate I want to install. So if I want to change hot ends, the BLTouch will still be there, and I don't have to go ahead and, like I said, have multiple pieces. So we have those here. Now, right along with this, I've had to get some extra screws and everything else. I'll try to outline as I'm moving forward what extra screws I've used and needed. So let me go ahead and I'm going to switch over to the printer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and install this mount I made. I'll slip that over the block there. It's rolling smoothly, so that looks good. And here's a close-up of it. So I'll go ahead and basically screw in the, I'm going to go ahead and screw in the mount to the block. And I'm just using some M3 screws here. Now this block, I mean the mount, is I've remixed a mount I found for a linear rail system for the Under 5 Plus, so it'll fit the block, I mean the mounting plate for the Hermit Crab. And I'll go ahead and post that on Thingiverse too, and the link will be in the description. So I'm going ahead and mounting this. Appears to be nice and tight, not loose, and it's also traveling very smoothly, so that's good. Now the next step I'm going to do is go ahead and mount the plate where I'm going to put the timing belt, and what I'm using for that is I have 2 M4 screws. And I didn't show it clearly, but right here and here in this mount, I basically just pushed in M4 nuts, and that's what the screws will bite into. I'm going to go ahead and mount this plate. So I have the top M4 screw. I'll go ahead and put that in. Now I also noticed this hole's a little big down here, so I went ahead and I have a washer on my M4 bolt. I'll go ahead and move that over a little bit. So those are in there nice and secure, the plate's on. Now also the heads of these bolts are lower than these mounting points for the back plate, the Hermit Crab back plate, so everything should be in clear. Again, I'm going to check everything is flowing smoothly, and so I'm going to go ahead and switch over and install my timing belt and get that all set up. Okay, with the timing belt, the smooth side needs to be out. The teeth of the timing belt need to be against the gear, so I'm going to go ahead start threading this through. And I have a belt tensioner here, so I'm going to go ahead and make that as loose as possible. That way I have plenty of slack. And I want to thread the timing belt behind my mount here. I'll use my tweezers. Oops. Use my tweezers to grab my belt. I want to make sure this isn't twisted. So again, the flat side should be faced out. And down here, this is going to be tight. That's again why I need tweezers to help route this through. So I'll put this through here. Just use those tweezers to pull it through. Okay. So I have the timing belt through. And let me switch over. Okay, so I have both ends of my timing belt here and right here. And here's my mounting plate. These need to loop through. And so what I'm going to do is I have my two little belt holders I printed. So I'm going to start inserting those. Do a little bit more slack here. Now I made the mistake of cutting this ahead of time, so I've sort of messed up there. I probably should have installed it and then cut. Okay, so that's one side. Let's see if I can get this other side in. I have that looped in. Let me go ahead and do my belt tensioner. It still feels like it's moving pretty good. Tension it a little bit more. Maybe a little tight, but I think that's all right. So let me go back to my close-up view. Okay, so as you can see, my plate's installed, belt's correct, everything appears to be moving all right. Looking at it, doesn't appear any of my belts are rubbing against the rail, so everything appears to be good. So now what I'm going to do is go on ahead and work on the back plate so I can get that ready for install. Okay, looking at the instructions, it looks like I need to remove the PCB board from the back plate in order to just install the plate itself, and then once I have it installed I can go ahead and install the PCB board back. Let me switch bits here. I've already removed 2 of the screws on the PCB board out of 4. So I'll put those in my plate here. Okay. So now I have just the back plate. The back plate is mounted with some of the screws, which are, look at the instructions here. They're mounted with M312 screws that are flat. See if you can see that. These flat screws go in here, and this mounts it to the plate, and these go into the into those mounting points on the board. Now, the problem I've already run across is this permanent plate that, again, Michael from Teaching Tech uses looks to be 2 millimeters thick here, and when I put the screws in to start mounting it, these screws aren't long enough, and it's a little hard to see. Let me see if I move it closer to the camera. So the screws aren't going all the way through, and so these won't grab into the mounting points. So what I'm going to try to do instead of buying new screws, because these are the longest that come with it, and I really don't want to redesign anything because this works, I found I had some, these are M12 and I believe these are M14, so let me see, this doesn't sit quite flush, but I think it'll work. So let's see. So if I use this, you'll notice it goes through, so that should let me do the mounting points. So we'll just use these. So push this all through. So now this feels tight. Let's go ahead. Of course, these are Phillips head rather than the hex head, so let me switch bits. This is just me using the screws I had laying around as opposed to buying anything new. Okay, so those work. So let me go ahead and switch over to the printer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and line this up and see if I can screw this in. It doesn't feel like it's grabbing. Maybe it did. Okay. Let me mess with this a little bit. Okay, so I have everything tightened up. This looks good. Nothing's hitting the belts here. And so my BLTouch will be permanently mounted here. And that way, whenever I change tool heads, if I change to a different hot end, again, I don't have to have multiple BLTouches, and it'll save me some money as I'm looking at this. Before I install the PCB board back, I think I want to go over to the printer and go ahead and install the wiring. I like the fact that if I mount it, it's probably going to be easier to keep this unmounted so I can put the wires in and see things a little bit better. Here's the diagram, the PCB board. So the top wires are the hot end, part cooling fan, hot end fan, and then thermistor, and then lastly the stepper motors. But all my ferrules are mixed up because I accidentally dropped the case. I'm going to have to look here and see which ones are the smallest. Looks like either these gray ones, they won't fit in, or these white ones. Let's see if they'll fit. They do fit. Let me see if I have any smaller ones. Oh, it might help to actually read this. So it looks like white's about the smallest I have. Yeah, I think white's the smallest. And that, when I put it in, it does stick out a little bit, but I really think that's better than having loose wires. So that, you can see that sticks in there. Like I said, I like that much better than just trying to crimp those wires and stick them in. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch over and work over at the printer. Okay, so I have all my wires are loose. Now these are all the connections I had from my old hot end. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to need to clip all these. And then I still have my BLTouch here, and this is going to the printer, and this will just be connected here once I'm ready. So let's, in fact, why don't I go ahead, first step I'll go ahead and install. Now I'm going to leave the BLTouch uninstalled, that way I have, again, more slack. And let me see if I can push. I have a clip on here, and I want to clip this so the housing, none of the wires are being crushed here in this clip, but it's letting me put the sheathing over so it's out of my way so I can see better. So right now we have the hot end. Where is it? Oh, park cooling fan, hot end fan, and then lastly the thermistors. So I'm going to go ahead and just clip off these connectors so I have bare wires, and I'll just start with one at a time. So I'm just going to clip off these hot end wires. Now throw the connector away. I'm going to go ahead and say one of my least favorite parts about working with particularly these hot end wires is the cloth sheeting around these. It's really hard to strip and get a clean strip. So what I'm going to do is I found these strippers here, which I think are about $3 at Harbor Freight, and turns out they work about the best. So I'm just going to you can see, let me strip that pretty good. So I just have a little bit there. Twist that a little bit. Let me get the other side. Like I said, these strippers, I have more expensive strippers that I use for all my other wires. But these work excellent, just like I said, for the cloth thing. So I'm going to twist that around and then pull. I'll go ahead and twist that. And let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. Pull that out. That looks good. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and see if this will fit in my ferrule. Actually feels like it fits nice and snug. So I'll go ahead and grab my crimpers. Put the ferrule in there. And grip it. That looks good. So let's do the other side. So grab the wire again. Got that twisted, so that looks alright. Push that through. Ferrule crimp. And I'll put links to what I'm using in the description in case anybody needs a good set of tools. Okay. So those both feel nice and tight. So we put that aside. Next I'm going to do the hot end fan, and I'll go ahead and pause this and put the ferrules on and then let you see the final result. Something I want to show. I just discovered as I'm doing this. One thing you need to be careful of is I have my wire strippers here, and I wound up with these tiny wires having to strip off a little bit more than I normally do. So normally I do about 3 millimeters. Now I'm closer to 5, so I can fit these ferrules on. So give myself, again with these strippers, give myself a little bit more room to work, and that way there's more room to seat these ferrules. There's more wires in the center metal part here. And that fits nice and securely. So So I'll go ahead and do this last one. These are my thermistor wires. Twist those real good. Go ahead, insert wire into the ferrule. And then I'm just going to go ahead and crimp away. Make sure that's nice and secure. So now I have all my various wires are crimped up. And so now I'm going to go ahead and wire my PCB board. On the hot ends, it shouldn't matter whether it's positive or negative, so I'm going to go ahead and start the ferrule. Let me go ahead and tighten that up. I'll go ahead and insert the second wire. Now for the fans, it does matter. Now this diagram isn't too clear, but it's negative on the fans. On the part cooling fan, it's negative, positive, and then on the hot end fan, it's positive, negative. So it's going to be on the way I need to wire it next is blue, yellow. So I'm going to go my printer again. So I'll wire this. The negative part cooling fan needs to go in. I'll insert that in. I'll tighten it up. It's tight. Next, I want to use the yellow wire. Loosen that a little bit. This is a little bit of a tight fit with these ferrules on here, but I just actually feel better having these on here. I just don't like crimping I don't like twisting wires. So now I need the so right now I have red and yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and next one is the positive hot end fan. So that is red. Loosen the screw a little bit more. I need the negative hot end fan, that's going to be black. And then the two wires for the thermistor, those don't matter, so I'm just going to insert those. Probably need to do them one at a time. Again, these are tight fits. Tighten that in. Put in my thermistor, so now that's all wired. I said that doesn't necessarily look the best. leave it as is for right now. Let me go ahead and mount the PCB board back to the back plate. Okay, so I have the PCB board back attached. What I want to do real quick is switch over and just try moving this back and forth. That feels all right. I've moved the sheath back down. And let me go ahead, and I will go ahead and mount this. Mount my BLTouch right in here. Mount it. I'll mount it like this. And let me go ahead and get that mounted, and then I'll go ahead and work on getting the hot end and the stepper motors. One of the things I need to do on my printer is I need to look, and I think I have to use another, I'm going to need a longer stepper motor cord to go from the printer into here into the PCB board. So let me find a longer, I'll find a longer cord, and once I find that longer cord, I'll plug that in here and then plug it in my printer, and then I'll worry about cleaning up the wires later. Okay, a small problem I just identified is the the cord for the stepper motor for E0. But what I've done is just gone ahead and repurposed the cord that came with it, and so I'm just using that to extend everything. So I'm doing a JST connector. Should be doing the 4, so it's XH4Y. Looks like here's the end of the wire that came with Hermit Crab. It looks like that's 6 ports. It looks like I'm going to have to rearrange how these wires are. If I go over to the diagram, it looks like it should be red, blue, green, black going into the connector. And if I flip this over, it looks like it actually is in the order here. I need to flip this around. So I'm going to go ahead and rewire this, and you'll get to see my wiring skills here. So what I'm going to do is let me clear my workspace. So I have my connector, my crimping tool, my wire, and here's the little metal connector. So I want to go ahead and pull off 4 of those. So this will give me 5, because usually I mess one up, and hopefully I only mess any up, but I gotta be realistic with myself here. Okay. Well, besides messing them up, I also drop them. Okay, so let me go get my wire strippers that are located over there. Okay, so I'm going to clip these wires. Okay. So I have my 4 wires. Break them out a little bit more so I have some more room. And they should be in this order: red, blue, green, and black. So throw this away. So I'm going to strip these. I'll start with the red. What I'm going to do is I want about 3 millimeters. And so that's good enough. So I'm going to twist them. Okay, and then the end of the wire up here. So in order to do these, what I'm going to do is take the connector in this hand and I put it in the 0.6 with the wings holding it. Then I'll take the wire I want to do, put it in, and crush it. It's holding it down. So now I'll bend the wings. And what I do is I put this in the 0.9 slot. And bend down those back wings. So that's done. So now I'll do the same for blue. Strip off again about the 3 millimeters. Wrap it around. Put in the connector. And the way I do it is I hold the connector in my left hand, put it in the 0.6 slot, and push it all the way up so that the wings are the only thing on this side. Tighten it a little bit. Then I push in the wire all the way to the sheathing. Go ahead and crush it down. Oops. Of course that did not work. So I missed it. So there's my first mess up. So I'll go ahead back and put this at 0.6. Let's see if I can get this one right now. Slide that in. So now I'm going to bend back. Whoops. Messed up another one. Let me pause this. Well, I'll try one more time. Put this in 0.6. I might not make sure I have the wings flush against the side here. So that's all the way flush. And like I said, let me try one more time. And maybe that got it that time. So I'll bend those back wings a little bit. And then put this in 0.9. So that's holding that in. Okay, so now I'm going to slip this in the connector. I have the connector pointing this way. The little raised metal thing needs to be in the back. It needs to click in there. So I want it. Wire a little bit. I'm going to click that in. So red. Blue. Clicked in. Green. And then black. Push those all in. Look at the back. It looks like everybody's in there tight. go. And let me just check this compared to my wiring diagram. So I'm holding it this way. So holding it that way, and so it's red, blue, green, black. And the wiring diagram here, red, blue, green, black. So it looks correct. So what I'm going to do is go over to my printer and hook this in. So that's wired in. So we're good to go. So now that I have that in, I'm going to go ahead and set up the BLTouch. Okay, now everything's wired up with the back plate and the BLTouch. I probably still need to adjust the BLTouch, the height. And then I need to... So now what I'm going to do is switch back over to my desk and work on wiring the H2 to get that all set up. Okay, so here is my H2. Let's see what this looks like. We have an instruction manual. So we have the instruction manual and wiring and a diagram of all the various parts and pieces. Let's go ahead and take this out. This is my first time actually seeing H2 in person. It's actually a lot smaller than I thought it would be. I'm checking this gear here. In some of the reviews I saw, this gear tended to be a problem. Feels good. Pretty small and compact. So let's see what else we have in here. We have the BIQU rubber duck. We have a set of tools, including some screws, probably again for mounting, Allen wrenches, low wrench. Put that aside. So I believe I want the fan mounted this way, with the label in. So let me go ahead and start setting this up, and I'll get everything screwed together and the hot end all put together. So I have most of the H2 together, but I'm noticing I probably want to take off this PCB board because I want to try mounting the H2 so I can see what it looks like. And looking at all this stuff, I think I need to take this board out. This board aside, and it's looking like H2. That's the top. Needs to be mounted here, like that. From the look of it, there's only going to be screws on the one side. I think that'll be all right. Okay, in order to mount it, it came with M3 8 screws. And those just did not want to tighten all the way to hold it steady. So what I did was I'm switching out with some M3 6 screws, which will tighten. So now this feels nice and tight on this plate. Now one of the other things I've realized is, since I started this, I'll probably need to go ahead and print out some type of part cooling shroud, because I didn't realize, but this does not have one built in. Not a big deal, but I'll have to look up and figure out which ones I want to try. And most likely that'll have a little bit different mounting plates. That might solve some of this too. So what I'm going to do is start clipping some of these wires. And it looks like I really don't need very much space at all. I'll give myself a little bit. Just a little bit so I can nick the housing there a little bit, so let's go ahead and just clip off the ends just so I can start fresh. Yeah, that gives me enough room. So let's go ahead and see how I'm going to have to route the wires. So let's put the thermistor in. Put it in from this side. I probably want to dismount this. I think I want to put all these wires in from the back, right up against the plate, so that way they're sort of hidden. I'm just going to leave everything so I have all the slack, and then I can figure that out. Looks like I need to back that out a little bit. Oops. Push that through a little bit more. Let me see. On the heat cartridge. Yeah, I should be able to mount those from the back. And again, maybe very low. I'm going to clip this right here. And I'll clip this right here. Which is way more than I need, but I want to have the extra space. Just so I can play around with it some. back on. Now I may wind up having to change this once I get a heating cooling duct on here. But with that being said, I'd rather get the wiring fixed first, and I can always come back. Let me pause for a second. I've gone ahead and hooked up the hot end. So the hot end is hooked in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wire up a hot end fend, even though I don't have it set up because I'll have to find a shroud. Let me just go ahead and do this. That way it's wired as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wire this fan, wire up both my fans, and then I'll come back and show you the finished product. Okay, I have this all wired. So now my hot end cooling fan, hot end fan, thermistor, heater cartridge are all wired in. Hopefully I have this correct. Now what I'm going to do is I need to wire in for the stepper motor, and here's the wire that came with the H2. So let's see what this looks like. I'm already seeing this is going to need to be wired a little differently. So this end goes into here, and then this end is supposed to plug right in here. But I already don't like the fact that this isn't the right connector. So I want one of those JST connectors to go in here. It also looks like the ordering of the wires is going to be a little bit different than I had previously. Let me go over to the browser. And it looks like the wire should be black, green, red, blue. Let me look at the previous diagram. Now if I'm reading this right, it should be black, green, blue, red. So I'll go ahead and clip this and set it up so I can put it in here. So let's do a little extra wire here. Let's separate each of these wires. Gonna have more slack. I'm going to go ahead and take these down pretty much all the way. And I'll cut them about here. Maybe a little bit more. Throw that extra way. Okay. So I said we need black, green, blue, and then red is the way this looks like it needs to be in here. So let me go ahead and pause again, and I'll go ahead and put the JST connector on here. Okay, I now have everything wired. So black, green, blue, red. Hopefully that's correct. Again, my parts fan's just hanging out here, but basically I want to see if this is wired correctly. So let me switch over to the printer. Okay, so here's my printer, and what I'm going to do is, let's try snapping in the plate. I'm already seeing that this is really tight against this BLTouch. But let's just go ahead and see if it works. So I'm going to fire up the printer. I'm going to plug everything back in. So we're plugged in. We power it up. Okay. So right now, my BLTouch is getting power. I can already tell the BLTouch is too low, so this mount I'm using is not going to work. Now, supposedly, I'm going to point out that the BIQU Hermit Crab is supposed to be compatible with or the same as the exchange system, but this is an exchange part, and like I said, it's not fitting with this hot end. Now maybe because of this hot end as opposed to it's not working, but I'll have to mess with that. Let's go ahead and see if I can heat up the hot end. And what I'll do is let me fire up Octoprint, and then we'll try doing the controls from Octoprint so that way you can see whether it's heating up or not. Okay, so I have the printer hooked up to Octoprint. I'm going to go over here to the temperature control, and I'm going to try putting the top hot end at 205. Now eventually I'll do PID tuning and all that. Now it looks like, yeah, the tool is heating up, so that's good. Actually looks like it's heating up pretty quick too. Let me make sure I have nothing touching it. So that's looking good. Everything's looking good in the printer. As you can see here, it's heating up. Here's a little bit better. Well, this is a better view. Now once this heats up, I'm going to go ahead, even though I haven't loaded film in, and I'm not going to right now, I'm just going to go ahead and test the fans and then test. Now as of right now, the hot end fan is on, so that's good, and I can smell it everything heating up. Now I've had a little bit of an overrun there, but that I haven't done the PID tuning yet. So let me go over to control, and I'll aim my camera, and let me tell it to extrude 100, and I'll see. And let me see if you can see it a little bit better on this camera. You can see it is turning, so we're having extrusion, so that's good. So the wiring's correct there. Now I'm going to try to see where I can turn the part cooling fan on. The part cooling fan's not on, but let me see which setting I need to hit that. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the part cooling fan is on. So the part cooling fan's on, all the fans are on, so apparently I've done all the wiring correctly. So everything is going. Now what I think I'm going to do is stop this, since I have it actually working correctly and all that. The wiring's all correct. So what I'm going to do is call it a day and wrap this video, and then I'll probably post a second video where I go ahead and get a fan duct on here and then rework this mount a little bit, so that way the BLTouch is on there. Most likely I'll have to have the BLTouch with the tool, but what can you do? So again, my name is Mike, and I appreciate your time today. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Go ahead and subscribe if you want. Hopefully you'll find this helpful as you try to, if you decide to do the BIQU Hermit Crab. Thank you and have a good day.